Good afternoon, Dr. Sharma, and welcome to another session on mental health.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vasconcelos. Good to be back with you.
Actually, let me correct myself on brain health.
Good to be back talking about the brain.
Doc, today is September 8th, 2020. And my question to you is, how can we change the negative perception on mental health disorders?
So we've used the word brain health, and that's probably one of the ways we can do that by taking out a very old negative term, an old word that makes very little sense to many people. Okay, we talked about this before, and when we looked at what a psychotic illness is, what a non-psychotic illness is. It's just a reminder that if we use words that are not carrying proper meaning, it creates difficulty in the minds of people as to what we're talking about. And the truth, the reality of what mental health disorders are, is that they're all disorders of the brain. And it takes away a lot of confusion that these disorders are some kind of possession state or bad mindsets or evil forces or things that people do to each other in a negative way. So all that is removed. This is a problem that people carry in their brains. It doesn't mean that the stresses are not there that are environmental, but the majority of stress, as we know, most of these disorders comes from the brain itself. The brain is not able to cope with pressure and it becomes overwhelmed, and we see a number of disorders that arise as a result. And these disorders fall into several categories: emotional disorders, problems with memory and concentration, what we call cognitive disorders, or behavioral disorders, or the whole personality, as we talked before, can be affected. So using the right words can help a lot. We're still far from the goal of changing many negative terms. We've moved far ahead than the great old days of very poor name calling. We in the medical profession are calling our own patients by using poor words. How can we blame people for seeing the persons in a poor light? So changing that and making as bold statement as I do that all mental health disorders are disorders of person's brain, and they're disorders of either the emotion or the cognition or the behavior or the whole personality can be damaged. And then within that, we have within those disorders of the brain, we have many subsets of problems that people can have, which are like eating disorders, sleeping disorders, sexual dysfunctions, seizure disorders, headache problems, pressure symptoms, post-traumatic stress disorders, very strange phenomenal disorders like dissociative disorders where people can split away. We talk about split personalities and so on. So they're all dysfunctions of the brain, and I think that's where we got to make the change from the brain itself. Make people understand that we're not dealing with some kind of vague subject. We're dealing with a physical set of disorders coming from the brain. So hopefully with this change in the way we describe these disorders, it becomes clear in people's mind that look, these are not some kind of weird set of subset problems. These are not problems that people should look down at others for having them or laugh at them or ridicule them, or ridicule the persons who provide the care and treatment for these individuals. They are all part of the medical field of care and should be all treated with respect. No matter how dysfunctional a person can be, we still have to provide that support and that care.
Doc, obviously it's a very complex situation dealing with mental health, as you say, brain health. The United States of America is seen as the greatest nation on earth. Perhaps not currently. Currently, we're more like a third world country, but it is the greatest nation on earth with a lot of resources. And it has a lot of study going on right now with regard to mental health. It seems to be a focus. And an example would be PTSD that you mentioned, post traumatic stress disorder. As a nation that has had that have military presence in many countries, the U.S. is dealing with that. However, contextualizing it, for example, in Guyana, a small country with less than 1 million people that obviously is not at war and don't have to deal with the complex issues that perhaps in the US you would have to deal with. As a mental health expert, how would you see the steps that can be taken, which is actually a work in progress because we are working on a mental health outreach? What would be some of the first steps that we can do to be effective in impacting a small country like Guyana?
So education of persons is very important to be able to change that mindset, as I mentioned, by changing nomenclature and having people recognize that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Having a disorder of one's brain is nothing to feel bad about. It's to feel concerned about. And the presentations of that problem is not what people should be focused on, is to be focused on what's behind the presentation. And I think if people start to see what's behind behaviors, we'll be able to have more compassion. There's a lot of talk now about emotional intelligence. It's all about opening one's mind to what is behind the behaviors of individuals and coming to understand and try to support them. We see a lot of behaviors that are aggressive, negative, and it creates fear. The society is responding to that fear by reactionary behavior, and we see it with the COVID crisis. There's a lot of fear in people's minds, and they react into that fear. Talking about COVID, I must say, put in my pitch for one of the things I believe that can help in overcoming that fear is to be able to see ourselves as strong people, that we must make ourselves more resilient and stronger in terms of our body immunity. It's not all about masking up and hiding ourselves away. Uh, Sitting in a bubble, it's not going to protect us forever. It's going to just create a artificial sense of safety. At some point in time, we have to come out, but we must come out feeling stronger. So it's the same way with dealing with this issue of mental health. We have to take it on. There's a lot of people who don't want to see change. They're stuck in their old ways, and they don't like to see things happen that gives them more work to do. But unless we make that effort and make the work happen, we're not going to see the changes happen. We are fortunate in Guyana that it's a smaller population. We've got a lot of people here who are supportive and caring. It's a big family. We have our problems, we have our differences. It's a country of many different races, like the US. It's a melting pot. But we're making great progress. I am comforted that people have good knowledge. The society itself is a bright society. It's a young society. It's moving forward well. We've got good economic prospects ahead. So with that, we also have to move in a modern way to see problems of emotional health, behavioral health, cognitive health in a modern light. We're talking about emotional health. We're not talking about some kind of weakness of the mind. People still using those terms, even medical people, and they have to stop it. And it's something that I feel sad about, that my own country, that it's really backward in that way. It's not changing enough. But the comforting news is that even the US, it's still struggling to make those changes against the stigma, which is so high over there as much as here. But we have a lot of negativity towards persons with emotional problems, with behavioral problems, with personality defects, with wide range of brain health problems, addiction problems. People are very negative. and the treatment that can be afforded are not very much available. For example, we don't have uh, a proper medical detox center. So persons with, say, addiction problems who need medical detox will have to be mixed up in with patients who have probably psychotic illnesses. So you need special care centers for special problems. In the US, for example, you have centers devoted to sleep, sleep studies, sleep research, sleep management. But here you'd have to have patients sort of all together in one type of situation, which is not ideal. So I believe we need to move forward, provide the best resources, constantly educate when you come over and you are doing your community outreach. It's education in the community. We're talking to our medical students, our young people. We need to put a new curriculum in place so that we have a more modern perception of these disorders. The work has to be done, Mark, and we got to have the leadership of our people at the top to make that happen. It can happen, and the good Lord is up there supporting it. So I'm very hopeful.
Well, Doc, we thank God for you and you educating us and you serving in Guyana. And we are thankful to have someone with your degree of commitment, with your degree of education, and your love for people. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you, and may God richly bless you.
Thank you, Doc. And I look forward to seeing you here. Yeah, hopefully as things progress well. We're at a point now that there is much hope that vaccines will come along to support the struggle against this COVID virus and that we will overcome it. I've always felt that we will overcome it despite the negativity that people have and the very pessimistic attitude that they have that, oh, we'll be all gone. We're still here 6, 7 months, 8 months after this virus hit us. I'm still here, you're here. And so we're very grateful for the powers that be. I'm not talking the powers that be alone among our human population, but that force above that protects us. And I know we will be protected. So we protect ourselves, we do the right thing, but we should not allow negativity to pervade our minds.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Doc. God bless you, and see you until the next call.
Thank you, Doc.